Now, greenhouse gases, big issue. Might not be in the budget, but they've reached their highest levels in Aotearoa since 1990. Okay, 25 years. Is this a big issue, Julianne?
It's a massive problem. We signed up to an agreement in Paris not that long ago, promising that we would phase out fossil fuels and have a plan to transition to a low-carbon economy.
And they've got a plan. They're pumping $400 million a year into agricultural research. So they've picked up the signs. They're doing something meaningful at a realistic, practical level. That's what they're doing.
If that were true, our emissions would be coming down. The spend on transport would be radically different. We would see a very different set of policies if the national government was taking climate change seriously and our responsibility to the rest of the world.
All right. Grant, farming, the backbone. When was the last time you went on a farm?
Last week.
Okay, whoops. All right.
In Blenheim.
Okay, in Blenheim. Farming, the backbone of our economy. I mean, are they to blame, or are they blamed too much? What do you think?
Well, they're not to blame, but it's a sector where New Zealand...
Well, 49% of the emissions
New Zealand's
are
emissions are high in that sector, and so we've got to be including them in whatever we do to reduce emissions. And that is one of the great shames, is that the emissions trading scheme's never been given a chance to work because National came in and gutted it before we got sectors like agriculture.
Your policy was a failure.
Our policy
yes,
was great if it had been implemented, which they didn't let it be
because
done.
it was too complicated for people to understand.
Definitely not. It wasn't
carbon tax, much easier.
Look, carbon tax is one way to do it, but an ETS fully phased in with all gases and all sectors in would see emissions reduced.
Well, to be fair, not reduced much more
exactly.
over
This is
what
the debate you're going to have.
national government has
What about
done.
you then, David?
All right, David. Hang on, don't you own a dairy farm?
Yeah.
So what are you doing on a practical level to reduce emissions? What do you do on your farm?
Well, you've got the science around the genetics of the
Now,
cows.
what do you do?
So every year you get new genetics coming through, and that science around the genetics is a big part of it. You've got grass sciences around new grasses that can be used on farms. So those are two very practical things. But going back to this is the problem you've got. The Greens want to get rid of the ETS and have a carbon tax. The Labor Party won't commit to either.
And
I want to have Grant Robinson say that he's going to have a carbon tax or an ETS. Which one are they going to do?
The big difference here, David, is we both want to do something about it and you don't.
No, well, that's not true at all. Not true at all. We are doing something about it.
David, before I... Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is this the biggest issue facing humankind right now?
It is one of the biggest issues.
It is the biggest issue.
It's one of the biggest ones.
So then it's one of the biggest issues.
Yeah.
You've said it here, National MP, Hamilton East, Dairy Farm in Parongia.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? You're not doing enough.
Well, we are. We're investing in the agricultural research. We've got an ETS scheme. We don't even know if Labor wants to have an ETS scheme.
You don't have functioning ETS scheme.
It does function.
You've completely undermined
it. It does not function.
It does function. And it is
did
working.
function. It did. It was a big transfer of wealth to polluters.
No,
That's
it didn't.
What it
That's
was.
not
It
true.
functioned as a subsidy
and we know
for
the Greens
pollution.
want to put a carbon tax, and I
that's
bet you Labor
exactly
wants to
what
put a carbon
National
tax
wanted
as
it
well.
to be.
And that's going to be very difficult for New Zealand
David.
business because we're transitioning New Zealanders
Do you know what will be really
into a
difficult,
system
David?
where they can take into account those environmental concerns going forward.
I'll come back to you three, but we have Fed Farmers with Hayley.
Yes, Dr. William Ralston, the President of Federated Farmers. Now, if our greenhouse gases are up and the farming creates 49% of that, do you take some accountability for that?
Certainly we take accountability for it. I think what we need to remember, though, is that there are more than just one problem in the world. And one of the other big problems is feeding a growing population. So if you look at the climate change talks in Paris, the outcome was that we needed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but we also needed to protect food production and food security. So we've got to do both of those things. And agriculture in New Zealand is playing its part because we're one of the most efficient protein producers in the world, and that means that we have low carbon outputs for the amount of food we're producing.
How do we, if we need to, maybe the world needs to eat less protein, should we diversify? Would you be into that?
That's a question you have to ask the consumers out there in the world. What we're doing as farmers is producing animal protein at very efficient levels, and if you penalise farmers by putting on an ETS, for example, all you do is drive production offshore, and if you're worried about the planet frying, you're doing exactly the wrong thing because greenhouse gas emissions will go up. So we're playing our part, and we are investing in science. We're doing a lot of things.
Now, science, of course, is a big thing, but how much can science change the DNA of a cow so that it no longer, let's call a spade, farts?
Well, it's not actually farting that's the issue; it's belching. But
He's right about that.
Better.
right.
so let's get down to science. But in fact, you can make a difference. There are genetics which will help to reduce that, and we're working through the Greenhouse Gas Alliance, through the Global Research Alliance, to actually look at ways to reduce carbon emissions, methane emissions and nitrous oxide emissions, those biological emissions. That's not going to happen overnight, and just putting a penalty on farmers is not going to help.
All right.
Okay, back to Wallace. He
Back to
obviously
me.
wants
Round
to
of
say
applause
something
for
over
William
there.
Rawlinson,
Thank you
Fed
very
Farmers.
much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Thank you, Hayley. Let's pick up. So technology, you're seeing some big leaps here in technology around farming. You can't deny what,
Yeah, but,
what Fed Farmers is saying.
fundamentally, we have given huge subsidies to the agricultural sector over the years, and some land use decisions have been made that have just been plain wrong. The transfer to dairy of land that has just not been suitable for it only gets there because of a subsidy. And while we do need a strong agricultural
So too
sector in
many
New Zealand,
cows.
we
Too
cannot
intensive,
keep
too many cows.
subsidising industries that should not be using the land that they are.
Hey,
Wallace, there was a statement there saying that agriculture had been given subsidies. Not true. Actually, if you look at Fonterra in the manufacturing sector, actually has to account for emissions, which other manufacturers in New Zealand that were large scale didn't have to. So our biggest manufacturing part of the dairy industry actually was treated with an emissions trading scheme that other manufacturers didn't have to in New Zealand.
I want to actually go back to Hayley to William Rawlinson, see what he thinks about
You didn't look very
Hayley.
happy when we heard the word subsidise.
Well, I think it's a misnomer to call agriculture not being in the ETS a subsidy. Federated Farmers has pushed back against subsidies. What the ETS would actually be a trade distorting penalty. It would distort trade by penalising farmers. And as I said before, if we're efficient and got low carbon emissions for the amount of produce we're doing, then we need to be supported, not penalised.
Other people do have to pay for their emissions, though. Are they being penalised?
They are being penalised, but I think what we've got to do is look at this as a world problem. Gases don't respect borders. We have to look around the world and make sure that the most efficient farmers are doing the most efficient things. And that's, for animal protein production, that's us in New Zealand, and we're proud of that. Right. And one of the things that we are doing is actually talking to other farmers through the World Farmers Organization to actually get them to be more efficient as well. So if we can tell them some of the things that we're doing, then we will make a big difference to global greenhouse.
Okay, thank you
Hayley,
very
I want
much.
to just come back. That's a good point, Julian. Gases don't respect borders, and we're doing our bit.
No,
With respect to Dr. Ralston, the biggest threat to food security, water security, human well-being is climate change. We have to make these changes sooner rather than later. The sooner we do it, the less expensive it's going to be for us, the less it's going to cost us. And the truth is that organization doesn't want to change. They want to do the minimal possible. And same with the government.
That's not true. It's
No,
not true at all.
if you don't put a price on
We've
it,
got an ETS scheme that the
that
Green Party wants a
subsidises
carbon
pollution.
tax. Labor Party can't even decide what it wants,
No,
whether
we
it
want
wants a
one that
carbon
functions.
You
We want with all
so you're not
sectors
going to
and
do a carbon
all
tax?
sectors
Are you
and
going
all
to do a
gases?
carbon
No,
tax?
no,
No carbon
we're
tax.
doing an ETS.
News from
What
the
are
Labor
you
Party
doing,
today.
though? What are you
That's
doing?
news from the,
What are you
We've got
actually
an
doing,
ETS
David?
as function, and in the budget you're seeing more money going into the
Oh.
Global Alliance,
The
and you're
single-
also seeing more money
No,
going into things
that's
like electric
enough.
cars.
Taiho,
We're doing
that's
things.
enough. Put your thoughts online at Backbench TV. We didn't even get into transport. We didn't even get into electric cars. I wanted to touch on that, actually, because I'm
could come back
a
to
big
it.
electric car fan. But next up, a big issue, and it's a big issue in the House tonight, and that is paid parental leave. Stay with us.